Hi guys, today's video is talking about, it's in response to a question I was asked by somebody who uses the channel, and it is about the concept of residential language holidays in France, and it's what I felt about them. So I was speaking to a young lady who I offered to speak to, but who then was like, oh no, can you just type the information? And I was like, well, no, it's easy for me to say. I'm happy to call you, but you know, typing takes longer. So, but it did make me think, well, because I'm nice, too nice, I should have ignored the request after that rudeness. But I thought, do you know what? I am going to put this information out there anyway because I think it's really useful for most people. So, you've been studying a language for a while, you're doing pretty well with it, you think, do you know what? I'm going to spend some money and I'm going to go and do a residential in the country. And I know this is a really big investment if you are not from Europe. You know, if you're coming from America to go and study in France for a while, then although a lot of my advice goes for any country, any language, then it's a big financial investment. So here's what I basically think about these. So arguably, it depends whether you're a complete beginner or whether you're intermediate to advanced. If you are a complete beginner, I genuinely feel, unless you are somebody who totally needs supervision the entire time, you would do well through either myself or many of the other fantastic YouTube providers, would be to learn the basics that way. I don't see quite why you would require to spend the money to then go and do that. If you feel that doing it intensively, taking time off work, taking time off other studies, taking time whatever, paying a flight, is because you want to learn it intensively, then learn it intensively through the media. Whether or not you do classes with myself or anybody else, you know, make sure you've covered the bases by yourself. Create your own intensive. If you want a holiday in terms of if you're in love with France, you want to spend some time in France, you want to explore France, then that is fine, and be aware that that is what you want. But if you think you are going to get superior language tuition by spending time in France, then what you will be doing will be staying residentially with people, all of whom are in the same situation as you, which means none of them are French speakers natively. That's why they're on the course. Okay? There's some argument normally like, oh, you know, we house you with a local sort of host family. Most of these host families will do this because they want you to practice your English with them as well. So that's not the best thing. What we want is immersion. So here's some pointers and some ideas that I like to normally sort of give out. So first things first, you could pay less money, far less money, and just go and spend time in France. You could just basically go and stay in a really cheap hotel for a week and hang out in France. And what I mean by that is you could go to local events, you could go to the library, you could go to the cinema, you could really sit and watch French television, and you could spend a week where you don't speak English. Turn your phone off or tell family to give you a while, and that would be great. You could go on a French holiday with an interest. So for example, if your French is at least intermediate, you could go on a holiday. So for example, I like horse riding. You know, if I wanted to go and improve my Spanish is pretty fluent, but if I wanted to, I don't know, push my Italian that little bit further, I wouldn't go and spend money on an Italian residential. I'd go and spend money on an Italian horse riding holiday, which would probably be half the price. And I'd be surrounded for the whole duration of that with that language, by people speaking to each other in the language. And that is the key thing. One of the main studies that has been done into children who learn languages when their parents speak foreign languages is children where they were exposed to less of the language, so fewer hours in the language, but that mom or dad spoke that language to somebody else. Those children did better. So when you absorb more is when you hear other people speaking the language to each other. So you could just as well find a course in something you like, find a residential holiday, find a group holiday, find a single style holiday, and go on it in French or Spanish or whatever your language is. And that would be far less money. Next up, now I do these, I do weekends, I do weeks, I have people who I will see for 4 or 5 hours a day, then they have some downtime, or we'll do a week, and I've done it where I take them, I mean, obviously, as you know, I spend some time in France, but I live in London, so I will drive, we will see in London every day, we will do 4 or 5 hours intensively, or I will take them to, I will drive to Snowdonia, so there's nobody else around, we're in the middle of the countryside, they have to speak French, and we will do that. So if you're particularly desperately interested in doing that, combining it with some fitness, you want to do some walking, you want to really push all of your grammar, do it either as a weekend or a 5-day, then do please contact me. I'm more than happy to do that, and I do that all the time. But my real honest recommendation is that you just stay away and shy away from these kind of long-term, you know, they're a business. They are a business. You are streamed into classes with other people. You know, it's really difficult to assess your level before you go. You know, they say things like, oh, English will be spoken, French will be spoken. I honestly just feel your money's better spent, your time is better spent spending some time on YouTube, learning as much as you possibly can. Then when you're at an intermediate level, find yourself something you could do with that level. Now, my final piece of advice, my next piece of advice, I really cannot push enough the concept of the language exchanges, and that means that you find somebody who you get on well with, and I always push language, I always push, what's the website I like? Conversationexchange.com. I have spent time, holiday time, with people who are really, really great friends now. Very quickly, that's my computer, very quickly made great friends with people, you know, on language websites that I've met, you know, when I was pushing my Spanish before I went off and did, you know, postgraduate stuff years ago. You know, then you just develop, you cultivate friendships. I've done that with people in Spanish and people in Italian. I've known people who I've taught, who I've told to go and do this in French. And because you spend a lot of time talking to them, you end up great friends. So what you can then do is organise amongst yourselves your own residentials. So they will come and stay with you. Now, you can either do it 2 ways. You can kind of say, right, when I'm in with you, in your country, we're only going to speak the target language. So if I'm going to stay in Italy, we're only going to speak Italian, and then you're going to come here and we're only going to speak English. Or you can divide it how you want. But for my mind, you've got somebody who knows how you work, somebody who's clearly trying to learn a language as much as you do. You've got an on-site teacher, okay? And I just really think this is far, far better. It's endlessly cheaper because you're paying flights or coach or boat or whatever and nothing else. Yeah, obviously take them out for dinner, and then you're going to do the same thing in reverse, and it's just a really, really, really successful and lovely thing to do, and I can't recommend that enough. Make sure you're on the same page. Make sure you find yourself an exchange that really, really gets you. And if you're struggling to make conversationexchange.com work for you, then do please drop me an email, logiclanguagelearning@gmail.com, and I will give you some tips on how to make that website work for you. But it is a fantastic resource to find like-minded people who are learning English or French or German, and you're trying to learn whatever, you know, their language. So that would be my other recommendation, and I have seen that work so well. Okay. My final recommendation, and I know somebody that did this. Many years ago, I worked in Paris for a lady called Abby, and Abby, she'd read French and Italian. I think she did it at Cambridge. Her dad was a linguist. She came from a family of linguists, but she'd really, really, really worked hard on her French at university, and her Italian was a little bit, you know, it wasn't quite at the level it needed to be. So she went to Italy and she got a job with Italian women in an Italian factory. I think it was some form of food packaging, whatever. But okay, she didn't need a vast amount of Italian. I mean, she had reasonably intermediate Italian, but she didn't need fluent advanced Italian to get the job. In the same way, with all due respect, we have people who work in the UK, people who work in other countries who have the right to work there, but they're not massively skilled in language. You could go and do that, yeah, for some of these people. So if you're a non-European, then I suggest you find the website or you contact me on how to do a working holiday, logiclanguagelearning@gmail.com. If you're a European, you have every right to do this. So go and find yourself some work in a temp agency for a couple of weeks, whatever, packing boxes. Yeah, you have the legal right, you know, until Brexit, at least if you're British, You have the legal right to work in France. So if you've got 6 weeks to kill, 4 weeks, 2 weeks, go and be with people speaking to each other in that country. Hang out with them socially. Yeah? Go and do another course. Go and do a study course. Instead of going on a holiday, go and stay in a hotel. Go and do a handicraft course or a singing course or a dance course. Go and spend time with people in the country that you're of the language you're trying to learn. Learning something with them. Hanging out with them socially. All of these options, for me, beat the long-term residential things where you go and hang around with other people who will cheekily speak to each other in English because you're all first language English. It's just money down the drain. It really, really is. And if I'm honest, even if you're a multi-millionaire, it's not the most efficient way to spend time. So, to recap, spend time in the country, absolutely. Visually you will learn, culturally it will make sense, you will completely consolidate what you're already doing. Prepare in advance, get the basics out of the way. Why are you spending money if you can't get the basics out of the way? On YouTube, with myself, with a tutor, anybody, get yourself ready to go. Find an opportunity to spend time with people who speak the target language between themselves. Do not go and spend time with a group of English speakers. It is a waste of time. It might be a beautiful school, you get to go to the beach in the afternoon, all of this kind of thing, and great. And like I said, if you know you want that kind of holiday, by all means do that. But honestly, you're far better off finding a cheap, local package holiday to somewhere in France, whatever, and finding a local teacher and just working with them, or even just local who wants to learn the language. My final recommendation, like I said, is get on top of doing a course or a different holiday with people of that language. Do not treat it as an academic thing, who are not treating it as an academic thing themselves. They're French, they're learning horse riding, they're French, they're learning jazz, piano, whatever your other interests are. Do this, and I swear to gosh, you will end up with some fantastic friends. Your French will go through the roof, or whatever language you're learning, and you will save yourself pounds and pounds and pounds. Finally, by all means, do an Airbnb. Do whatever you do. There's easy ways to do a house swap. If you own your own property or you rent your own property in the UK or somewhere else in Europe, there are endless house swap holiday organisations where basically you could have their house for a week and they could have your house for a week. It's a very, very, very common phenomenon. And then you basically go and hang out, in that country. All of which is endlessly better than the dreaded 3 hours a day and then the rest of the day to explore the town and city yourself. No. Finally, I have to be honest, I am a business. I do this. All I do is train adults to speak languages. I don't teach in a school. I don't teach children. I don't teach. All I do is make people bilingual quickly. If you want to do an intensive, by all means, come and either stay with me when I go on one of the summer one of the holiday breaks to the cottage in Wales. You're very welcome to come with me and stay there. We will do an intensive, or you're welcome to come and get yourself to London and do an intensive with 3-4 hours with me for a week. And you cannot imagine the improvement that will bring. And if you want to speak to anybody who has done that, I will happily provide you with their contact details, because my gosh, if you think I can achieve a lot in a 20-minute video, you wait what I can achieve in a week. Okay, I hope this has been useful overall. Well done for even being keen enough to express an interest. And I shall speak to you guys soon. Take care.